What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, T. Welcome to the Adventures of TNT. Now, today we have a special request. This is coming from our patron, Skates, in which he has requested Overkill. And the song is called I Hear Black. Now, I can't remember if I've heard this song before because I know Skates is always on our Metal Meltdown stream, in which I host every Friday at midnight, and we jam metal music all night long. And this song may have been requested in the stream, but a lot of times I get wasted and I can't remember the music that I listen to. So this is probably going to be a fresh listen and thoughts anyway. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Once again, this is Overkill with I Hear Black. Oh. Got that groove. That mid-90s groove.
If you release me, oh, leave me. When I'm right now, I won't care. I have black and has no mercy. I have black and has no mercy. Repeating in my head. Repeating in my head. Repeating in my head.
Oh man. All right, guys. So this is Overkill. I Hear Black, and I thought this was a great song. It's a great song, and a lot of it is reminiscent of the style from the early '90s. Like as soon as I heard this, I was like, okay, this isn't older Overkill, or well, it is older Overkill, but it's not like I've been listening to a lot of '80s metal, and so '80s Overkill is different than the '90s Overkill. Um, the sound is a little bit more refined, especially in the vocal department, but there's a certain level of rhythm and groove in the music, and as soon as the song comes on, I instantly felt the groove, and it takes me back to like Pantera, because Pantera, they kind of changed the metal game in the '90s with Cowboys from Hell, and they start implementing a lot of groove, and a lot of other bands followed suit. But one thing that was something that I noticed in the song, but then there's also similarities that I'm hearing that was very similar to other bands that were doing the same thing, like Megadeth. Because when I was listening to this, it kind of reminded me of "Angry Again." That song, "Angry Again." Dun, dun, dun. Never mind, forget it. But yeah. It's like you hear a lot of similarities in the harmonies and everything, and how they structured the songs. But I thought that was really cool. And then it still had like that chugging kind of vibe that some Overkill songs have, like "Who Tends the." Let me see, I'll pull it up here. "Who Tends the Fire," which is probably my favorite Overkill song. But it was like certain parts of the song had like that chugging kind of feel mixed in with some groove. So there was a lot of really cool elements in this song that I really, really enjoyed. And the last Overkill song that I did previously, let me see, it was "Spiritual Void." It was another song that had like a lot of '90s traits in it, or characteristics in it, that I really enjoyed as well. And so as I continue my journey with Overkill, it's really cool. I feel like it's really cool that I started in the '80s and I'm progressing into the '90s and into their more current stuff as well. Because when I do these reactions, especially when I go on these journeys with the bands, excuse me, allergies. I like to hear the progression or even the journey in their music, because sometimes the bands, they progress, but then sometimes they regress as well. And sometimes the regression is not a bad thing, because for a lot of bands, the mid '90s was kind of a turbulent time, especially for thrash metal bands, because they really kind of didn't have a place. Grunge and nu metal was taking over, and then you had to be harder or you had to be just as hard as death or black metal that was began getting popular on the scene. But then in the 2000s, there was like metalcore and gent and all the other stuff, and so a lot of the bands had to just kind of transition. And so it's really cool listening to these bands and hearing their progression through their music. But anyway, guys, shout out to our patron for this request. I appreciate it. I guess, Skates, I'll see you in the Metal Meltdown chat. And guys, make sure you join me every Friday at midnight. That way you can request your songs. We can jam out the metal, we can drink, and have a good time. But anyway, y'all have a good one, and I'll see you in my next video. Peace.